I'm going to tell you all something not a lot of you are going to want to hear. But if you intentionally tuned into this podcast or this episode because of the title, you need to hear this. And that's that you should not quit your job just yet. Unless you have a plan, unless you are willing to suffer or you never need to work again, you definitely should not quit your job. I do know that there are circumstances where it calls for it, but for most people, we need a job. You shouldn't just assume you're going to get another one or you start a company like those stories we hear and see that you're going to succeed, because it's all hard. It's all very hard. Finding another job is hard. Starting a company is hard. Doing your job right now that you think is hard is also hard. And if you haven't learned anything during your time in a company, then I don't think you should go on to, branch out. It is also a decision that you need to talk over with someone and should never take alone. So if you are young, let's talk about it. I won't be able to hear you talk back, but I hope I can still help. So let's get into the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 9 to 5 Job Podcast. I am your host Raymond, and this is a podcast that's all about maximizing the hours outside of work to build the life that you want. So today's topic is a big one. It's should you quit your job? It's a question, it's a topic, and we're just going to look at the different variables and try to see if I can help you make that decision. I hope that at the end of it all, I have convinced you, like I say, to stay with your 9 to 5, try to grow that out and build a better base for you before you actually quit. But I also hope that I will lay out the prerequisites and the signs that you should quit if everything is going wrong. So if you are considering leaving your job, I hope you have really considered all the factors. Do you have a concrete plan, a realistic plan in place? For example, have you saved enough money to comfortably sustain you during that transition period? Or have you built enough knowledge and skills to confidently stand on your own to branch out? If none of these scenarios apply to you, then we need to talk, because quitting isn't just like any other decision. There is a lot of weight to it. Jobs are literally getting harder and harder to find. So you need to actually be very careful when you're deciding to either transition or actually leave work. And I get that there are very many factors that play to someone wanting to leave their job. So maybe it was a tough day at work, or your boss said something dismissive, your projects feel thankless, like they don't have a lot of impact, or you just feel stuck. I mean, for a person that left their 9 to 5, I get it. Trust me, I have been there too, wondering if all this effort is even worth it, scrolling through YouTube, Insta, TikTok, and LinkedIn, and seeing all these posts about people who quit their jobs to start their dream business or to travel the world. And honestly, it's tempting to imagine yourself doing the same. But the truth is, and the hardcore truth is, that all these stories and posts are just highlight reels. What you don't see is the struggle, the doubt, the grind that came after they quit. There is a lot of doubt after you quit a job. There is going to be a lot of struggle to actually position yourself in the industry if you didn't do that while you are in your previous employment or something like that. So before you make that leap, let's unpack what is really happening here. So why are you feeling like this? I came out with 3 reasons, and let's just try to discuss them. So sometimes it's burnout. It's either you are tired, or it's a toxic work environment, there is lack of recognition, or even you're just bored. I mean, like the work bores you. So these feelings, yes, are valid, but they don't always mean that you need to quit. So you need to actually consider that, if it's burnout, can you actually change the environment, or can you change something that either makes your work more interesting or makes it less stressful? Okay, two is that other times it's mindset. So are you unhappy because things are genuinely bad, or are you stuck in a cycle of negative thinking? Because you see, negative thinking begets negative thinking. Have you actually done everything you can to make the most of your current role, to think about it positively, to affect your mood in a way that helps you to actually carry out that role? Or are you still in that negative thing? So another thing is just mindset. And then thirdly, is the comparison. So social media is a blessing and a curse here. I'm going to use a cliche. It shows us what is possible, but it also amplifies our dissatisfaction, especially for things like LinkedIn when it comes to the job thing. You're going to go to LinkedIn, there will be this guy with his bio of expert in this, what, and he's always pumping out articles, and then you start to compare yourself with that person and think that, you know what, your job is not that good, you need to quit, you need to find something bigger and better. And in actual sense, these guys are putting on a facade, or the comparison that you are making is of their chapter 10 when you are at chapter 1, chapter 2. I mean, it's just not healthy to compare in that kind of way. So let me just tie all these three reasons back, the burnout, the mindset, and then the comparison. And you could do this by asking yourself, are you running towards something better, or are you just running away from what's hard, what is inconvenient, what is actually the source of your livelihood at the moment? Are you going towards something better? Are you going towards a better environment if you are deciding to quit, or are you just running away from something just because you feel like it's hard and you can't manage? When in most cases, actually, it has been found that we have so much potential within us that if we just tried harder, if we just committed, we can actually like pull it off. So are you running towards something better, or are you running away from what looks to be hard or what is hard? That's literally a good benchmark to kind of go through these three reasons why you may be feeling like, you know what, you need to quit your job. And quitting your job is like literally one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make, because it falls into this category of the big three. Because with the three biggest reasons, or according to Naval Ravikant, the three biggest decisions you make in life is who you spend your life with, where you stay, and then what work you do. So within the what work you do is where this whole decision of I get to work here or I don't get to work here. It's that whole trade-off of leaving one opportunity for another. So let's just break that down. How do you actually make the decision of quitting your job or actually staying there? And and for this one, I came up with just two that I literally looked at in my situation. So this is like very practical. So the first thing I did was to evaluate my environment. So just evaluate your environment objectively. Take an objective look at your workplace. Is it toxic, or is it just challenging? Sometimes we confuse discomfort with growth, because trust me, there is going to be some discomfort in growth. Or I can actually say 100% of the time that you are growing, you are being stretched. So tough situations can teach you resilience. And if you stick with them, you actually grow and become better. So you need to objectively evaluate your entire environment and how you are making this decision. Is it that you are running away from something, or you are running to something better? And then two is to talk to someone you trust. You see, never make decisions like this in isolation. Your brain is going to cook up a lot of reasons just because it is running away from something. Our brains are wired to protect us. So when we are in stressful situations, when we are in what, our brain tells us, okay, you know what, we need to be away from this, like very far from this. So I'm going to tell this guy that he needs to quit. When in other words, that is going to be the kind of discomfort that is going to push you towards growth. So talk it off with someone that is someone that you trust. It could be a mentor, it could be a coach, it could be a parent, someone who is been in your shoes, maybe. That's also a good option. And they're going to really help you put things in perspective and bring on that objectivity that you need. They might see things that you don't see. So definitely, one, evaluate your environment. Two, talk to someone that you trust. And then three, consider your own personal life circumstances and how your goals are aligned to this. So if you looked at your trajectory in the environment that you have, it's also part of evaluation. But yes, in the environment that you are in, is it going to give you the kind of platform that you are going to grow and be on this trajectory that you want to be on, that serves your goals, that is in line with who you are, things like that, take like an inward view and then compare that with the kind of role that you are doing. And it all comes from asking yourself these hard questions, like, what have I learned in this job? Have I exhausted all the opportunities to grow here? Am I financially and emotionally prepared for what comes next, for when I quit? And the financial part is what most people look at a lot. But trust me, through this whole period that I have gone through, the emotional part is definitely one you should look at. Are you going to be emotionally strong to stave off the self-doubt that comes, the feeling of you not being grateful for the things you have, like you have been having a good job, everyone else is like they are not employed or something like that, and then you're just throwing it away. So are you going to be able to actually manage those thoughts that come into your head, people that are going to judge you for it, things like that? Like, emotionally, are you prepared for what comes next? So those are things that you can literally use to kind of evaluate this decision. And there's actually something I want to tie this back to. There is this whole quote that I forget who coined it, but it's something that stuck with me and I wanted to share it with you as well. He or she said that you should only quit to start your own company, your own business, if you are able to write a book about your experiences. So write a book about that one thing that you have been doing. So it could be your experiences, your processes, the kind of people needed, the resources, the effort it requires to do that thing and do it well, with everything enclosed. So let me just read that again. You should only quit to start your own business if you are able to write a book about your experiences, the processes, and the kind of people, the resources and effort it requires to do that and do it well, with close to viable business models that reflect more reality than optimism. So this last part that I hadn't actually, I'd skipped over it, but the thing about adding reality and overweighing that, or making it more important than optimism, because you see, sometimes we look at an industry as a technician, if you're following the whole E-Myth kind of spectrum, that you are a technician and then you are a manager and then you are an entrepreneur. So most technicians go on to start their own businesses and then find out that they are playing all the three roles, and yet all they wanted to do was get more autonomy to do the one thing that they liked and to get more money from it. So this person that is a technician is clouded by this whole optimism of what the future could be, that they don't actually factor in the reality of actually knowing how to run the business. You get it? So as you are also thinking about this, look at yourself when you are looking inwards. Are you able to actually write a full book about what you are doing, and people would be able to read it? Because that's just a simple benchmark for how ready you are to take on these things. Because you realize, if you are, let me say, I'm going to use my own example, a property manager, and the role you have been in is these simple operations and things like that. But then you're not able to write down what a maintenance schedule is, or you're not able to do a full tenant onboarding process, or you're not able to onboard a client, a property management client, like the landlord, not just these tenants and everything. If you're not able to do a tenant screening process, I mean, these are small things that are going to tilt more clients into your favor just by showing that you know them and you have the expertise. But when someone comes to you, you are a technician, you have been the best property manager in this company, and just because there has been someone doing the finances, you think you can do them better. And then when you actually get into the financing, you find out that, you know what, wow, this is a lot of work. I can't do this. I should have stayed. That's when the doubt starts coming in, and then you start failing to provide the kind of service that you want, because you had this optimism in your head that I'm going to do this and I will not deliver less than that. So yeah, I don't want to lengthen this whole section, but you really need to evaluate in order to make this decision. So if you have done the work and decided that it is time to move on, maybe I can also help you. So if you have gone through all the whole criteria we have been talking about, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I can write a book. I have evaluated the environment, and I have talked to people, and they're saying, okay, yeah, if you can do this, then go on. Here is how to quit, because you realize sometimes a lot of us don't know how to quit. Like, yes, we know how to go for the interview, get the job, but then when you're leaving, how do you leave a place? When do you leave? Things like that. They are also very important, just the way it is important how you come into the team and integrate someone into the kind of workflows that you have. It's also important that when you are leaving, you create some kind of form and structure to how you do it. So, how to quit? Well, okay, one is to create a transition plan. It doesn't have to be formal with your line manager or something like that, but you need to know what's next for you and then for the kind of processes that are going to continue once you leave your role. So know what's next for you, whether it's going to be a new job, whether it's going to be further education, or you're launching your own business, or you're going to take a sabbatical and take some rest. And then in your position, is there someone that is going to take over? Is the company thinking of this? Can you uh, advise? Things like that. So you create a transition plan of this person will need to be here and be trained for this, how long, and all that. So and then two is to save and prepare. This one you should actually have already started. By the time it clicks for you that, you know what, I might need to leave this place, do not hand in your notice for 1 month. Because, you usually hand in for 1 month's notice. Sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 2 weeks, depending on where you work. And you should definitely consult your employment contract for this date and the time frame. So save and prepare. Have at least 3 months worth of expenses saved. And actually 3 to 6 months. And I'm not talking about 3 to 6 months salary. That is different. 3 to 6 months expenses. So that you see, when you have already created a transition plan, you know how your expenditure is going to be. That was in the first step. So if it's going to be further studies, let me say right now for a master's, let me say in the one I wanted to do, psychology, or in investment and risk analysis, the tuition was about 4.6, something there. So I know that I'm going to be, dashing out 4.6 every semester. So first semester starts in August. So around that area from, I can spread it out and say July, August, September, October, I should have already paid the full tuition. That's about 1.2 every month. So that is the expenses that I need to be saved up for that month. So 3 to 6 months. Or if you're going to travel, you just have to have an expense plan, so that you don't spend above budget, and you just kind of manage this whole period so that you don't go into panic mode and everything is going to be stressful for you. Trust me, if you don't have your finances in check. So it's just about peace of mind. And then finally, once you're leaving, exit gracefully. Even if you are unhappy, live on good terms. Relationships matter, and you never know. You never know when you cross paths with your former colleagues, or with your former employer, or with the clients that you are working with. You can't know. So these things of you are pissed or you are disgruntled, and then you want to, go out banging like fireworks. I mean, don't cause that commotion. Just go out gracefully. Let everything transition on like you are still there, but you're not there. Something like that. Okay, and then here are the parts that no one else talks about. What happens after you quit? What comes after you actually leave? And I'm drawing this from personal experience, because no one told me that, man, after you leave, you're going to deal with some really emotional. I won't say roller coaster, but yeah, the emotional roller coaster at first is exciting, but it's really a whole thing of high and low. So what I mean is that at first you might feel very free, empowered, you now have more time. Now, like for me, it was more time to read, more time to play tennis, more time to just kind of design my life and touch base, And then after that, reality sets in, the uncertainty, the fear, the doubt, sometimes regret. And guys, trust me, I think, okay, 3 weeks in, I'm starting to realize that it's normal. Although yes, I did have a few hiccups this week that weren't planned for, and I think now in hindsight you should definitely plan for black swan events as well in your in your transition plan and everything. I think you do need to plan for black swan events. So the whole emotional roller coaster is going to just be this whole thing of up and down. One is you won't have to wake up for work anymore, you don't have to report to people. Another one is you don't have to do this, especially if you're free, like if you're free, yeah. And then if you're starting your business, there will be that height of registering, and then what? And then like you're going to now you need to build the business, and then you get your first client. So it's a high. So it's this whole up and down that you actually need to be ready for. Don't just think like I'll just go grind. Yeah. And anyway, okay. On to number two, which is actually the grind. Starting something new for anyone that, let me say, is starting a new company, you've gone off as a technician, you're spun off and you're going to start your own thing, or you're going back to school. Trust me, whether it's a job or a business, it's going to be hard. It's very exciting, but it's also a lot of work. So make sure you are ready. You guys, was it the day before I slept for like 3 hours and had to operate the whole day? Came back, rested for like 2.5, was in an online meeting on Google Meet, worked up to midnight 30-ish, slept, woke up at 4:50 something, and I'm like, wow, what am I doing? And it's all just because I was working on a coding project. That's why I have to like focus for all those long hours and like be obsessive about it, because when you are writing code, there's something exciting about it, but you also kind of have this desire to finish and to debug that one thing that just keeps you, because even when you are not coding, you're thinking about the bug and trying to find all these frameworks that you're going to use and maybe try to solve it. So I just kept on, even when you are asleep, when you wake up, the alarm wakes you up, you're like, okay, you know what, at 4 the internet is nice. I can go and read up on these documents that maybe I might have missed something. So I mean, the grind is real. You're going to have a different experience if you're starting something else. Me, that is an example according to coding. It could be something else for you if you're doing content, if you're actually like running, let me say, like you've gone out to do your own accounting firm. You're going to be in spreadsheets at 4 a.m. And that is going to be part of transitioning out of a 9 to 5 job into a 9 to 9 side hustle. So yeah, just be grateful for everything. And then one thing and I wanted to actually end this on a high, is the growth. Like I realized that I've been able to grow faster in terms of the kind of courses I've been doing, because I've been doing online courses, I've been reading a lot. My code is actually improving, so the growth is also a good one. So apart from the emotional roller coaster, the grind, and how hard it is, there is a lot of growth if you have done it right. Quitting is not going to be the end of your story. It's just going to be the beginning of a new chapter, and the chapter is going to challenge you, it is going to stretch you, it is going to grow you. And if you are committed, trust me, you're going to blossom and you're going to enjoy every bit of the grind, just because you can now clearly see the kind of vision that you're working towards. And you're not necessarily building someone else's something, but you're building your own thing. So you have some kind of ownership to it. That is kind of weird, but you will experience it when you finally quit your jobs. For now, first stay there. That is, if you have considered the criteria I've shared above. And yeah, I guess that's my advice. Do not quit because it's hard. Quit because you have outgrown where you are and you have done the work to move forward intentionally, or you need something that is calling to you and you really need to get it done. You are definitely in control of your story. No one has to, tell you that when you are in a 9 to 5, you're not controlling your story. Trust me, you are still in control. You just have to exercise it. But again, every decision comes with responsibility. Make sure that you are ready for what's next, and do not let these highlight reels and the LinkedIn posts dictate your journey. And I guess that's everything I have on this topic. So thank you for tuning into the 5 to 9 Job podcast. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need it. And as always, leave a review. It helps us grow and reach more listeners like you. And until next time, just keep growing, keep building, and keep owning your 5 to 9 life. I'll see you in the next episode.